You are not lazy. You're scared. Scared to admit your dreams might be too much for you. Scared to fail at what you're pretending to want, but don't actually care. Here's a fun fact. There's no such thing as a lazy person. Babies aren't lazy. Animals aren't lazy. Okay, well maybe sloths are lazy. But you are not lazy. Your choices are sometimes lazy, but we can also condition ourselves out of making lazy choices. In this video, I'm gonna show you how. But to even begin to win the battle against our internal inertia, we need to define what laziness is. The definition matters, and it's probably a little bit different than you think. See, laziness is the misalignment between our ambitions and our desires. Let's say your ambition is to get into law school, but you actually hate studying law, so you sit there and play video games for another 12 hours. Boom, now you have laziness. Laziness is therefore not the lack of doing something. After all, you were doing plenty while playing Elden Ring. You simply aren't doing the things that you would hope for yourself to do. That means the solution to laziness is not necessarily motivation or willpower or better self-discipline, but alignment. Alignment between those ambitions and those desires. And so that means that you either change your ambition or you change your desire. And in this video, we're gonna break down how to do each of those. And our story begins with an empty $2,000 table at a restaurant nobody wanted to go to. When I was in my 20s, I used to go out and party at least 3 or 4 nights a week. Something I don't really recommend, to be honest. And in the process of all of this partying, I got to know a number of promoters and managers of nightclubs. Also something I don't really recommend. There was one promoter that I knew, let's call him Steve. Steve was saying that the club had been having trouble selling their VIP tables. Now, if you don't know, the way that nightclubs make most of their money is by placing maybe a dozen small tables right near the dance floor and then charging an obscene amount of money to reserve them. Within the clubbing subculture, it is understood that these are the VIP tables, and sometimes clubs will even hire models to stand around them so that douchebags will spend all of their money in hopes that drinking a $1,000 bottle of champagne will magically get them laid. But I digress. Steve was saying that the club had been having a really hard time selling the VIP tables, and having all the tables sitting there empty most of the night, well, it looked really bad. It made it seem like the club was lame and nobody cool wanted to be there. But what Steve did next was actually brilliant. He took these empty tables, he put a red velvet rope around them, added champagne bottles and ice buckets on top, and then put a big reserve sign in front of them, even though nobody had reserved them. Amazingly, within an hour, multiple guys started coming up to Steve asking if they could buy one of the VIP tables for the night. The lesson of the empty VIP tables is actually very simple but profound. We are highly motivated to impress others and win the validation and approval of others, yet often the things that we want in order to impress others have no value themselves. They are simply made up. Take a deep, hard look at whatever you feel lazy about in your life. Ask yourself, is your ambition just an empty VIP table? Do you actually want to go to law school, or are you just trying to prove something to your parents? Do you really want to get jacked with a six-pack, or do you just want girls to notice you more often? Because here's the ugly truth. There are plenty of ways to get your parents' approval without wasting years of your life studying something you hate. And trust me, you can definitely get attention from girls without starving yourself and spending 2 hours in the gym every day. I mean, have you seen Pete Davidson lately? This is the first and most important lesson of laziness. Make sure your ambitions are actually your ambitions. Get clear on what you want and don't just chase the empty VIP tables. Because even when you do get them, chances are you'll still feel like you lost something. The philosopher René Girard had an idea called the mimetic theory of desire. Girard argued that everything we want is ultimately a function of what the people around us want. And psychology shows us this as well. If you take an out-of-shape person and then surround them by a bunch of healthy people, that person will strangely start to become healthier. There's an old saying that you are the average of the 5 people closest to you, and that's simply because we begin to adopt and inherit the desires and ambitions of the people around us. In the case of the VIP table, this can be weaponized against you, making you want to spend a bunch of money for something that you don't care about. But you can also use this aspect of your nature to your advantage. Simply surround yourself with the people people that you would like to become, and you will naturally start wanting to become validated by them by doing the things that those people do. Now, I know what you're saying, right? Like, you're not supposed to care what other people think. You're supposed to follow your truth, man. Look, it's impossible to not seek validation from other people. It's a fundamental part of our nature. You can't ever stop needing validation. Instead, simply look for validation from better people and for better reasons. You can use this desire for social approval to boost you ahead. You just have to set things up so that you get validation for doing the things that you actually want to do. And what's the best way to do that? Create stakes. Find people with similar goals to you and set up accountability systems with them. When I was writing my second book, I was stuck, horribly behind on my deadline, stressed out of my mind. I'd been writing for months, but felt like I was getting nowhere. Soon, I found myself waking up later and later, putting off my writing sessions even longer, spending more time traveling with my wife and playing a bunch of video games. It was becoming a huge problem. I wanted to write my book, but the pressure had become too burdensome, too overwhelming. So instead of attacking the project, I found ways to run away from it. Fortunately, a friend of mine was in a similar position. Nir Eyal was also struggling through his second book. So he and I made a pact together. Every single week, we would get together, write together, and then discuss what we wanted to accomplish in the ensuing week. We set timelines and goals for ourselves and then held each other accountable to those goals. We had a deal that if either of us ever screwed up, we would have to pay the other one $1,000. Now, when people attack their laziness, they tend to see it in terms of just purely summoning up willpower or motivating themselves in some magical way. But the truth is that most of this comes down to incentives. If you simply make failing to do something far more embarrassing and painful than doing it poorly, then you will naturally get off your ass and go do it. Nir and I built an accountability system for ourselves. Neither of us wanted to be the asshole who skipped out on a writing session, so the fear of judgment and embarrassment from each other kept us showing up every single week. It took what was daunting and scary about writing and made it feel much easier. So these rules will help you handle the desire side of the equation. So if laziness is where desire is misaligned with ambition, we've now addressed how to alter your desires. By using social pressure for your benefit, by leveraging incentives, you can hopefully direct what you want to accomplish a little bit more accurately. But building the desire for something great is only half the battle. To win the war on your own laziness, you also have to master your ambitions. And the way to do it will probably surprise you. Because according to science, to accomplish your ambitions, you should actually want less. Okay, envision this. It's 1879 and Thomas Edison is standing in his lab well past midnight, surrounded by dozens of blackened light bulb prototypes. Each failed bulb tells a story of high hopes and fizzled dreams. For the better part of a year, his team has been whispering among themselves that Edison's dreams of electrical light is just completely impossible. Edison himself faces moments of doubt, but instead of giving up, he pauses, and to the surprise of everybody, he decided to lower his ambitions. Edison gathered his team and acknowledged the obvious, that making a long-lasting light bulb, it seemed completely unrealistic. The new plan instead would be methodical. Just test one material at a time, learn why it failed, and then try another. Each experiment was simply a small challenge, an effort to gain a little more information. The team's expectations shifted immediately. They no longer felt the pressure to invent the light bulb right now. Instead, they just needed to test filaments. The shift transformed the lab's mood, and what had felt impossible began to slowly feel inevitable. In a seminal paper in 1968, the psychologist Edwin A. Locke noted that extremely ambitious goals usually backfire. Goals only increase your motivation when you believe that they are actually attainable. As soon as a person believes a goal is out of reach, their motivation will plummet and they will actually become less likely to accomplish the goal than before. This is why Edison's trick was so powerful. If you scale the goal down to what felt doable and then leverage the slow momentum over a long period of time, you're far more likely to accomplish something great. You're not trying to accomplish a big win all at once, but accumulate 1,000 small wins gradually. And it turns out when you do this, not only do you end up accomplishing much more, but you will be more motivated and satisfied while doing it. But here's the catch. When you lower your expectations and simply try to accumulate small wins, you introduce another problem. You have to stomach lots of failures, lots of repetition, lots of doing the same thing every day and not knowing if it's going anywhere. And this is where finding a sense of mission or purpose comes in. This is where the alignment between desire and ambition matters so much. Because if you want to accomplish a goal for a frivolous reason, to satisfy overbearing parents or impress a cute girl at work, to not be made fun of by your peers, you're gonna eventually lack resilience. But if you do have a higher reason to do something, a mission that goes far beyond yourself, some belief or cause that you care about, then you will be far more likely to stomach the inevitable setbacks and disappointments that show up on a regular basis. So yes, we crave validation. Yes, we crave attention, but ultimately human beings are meaning-seeking creatures. We want to have a sense that our lives mattered, that even after we're dead, the world is a better place for us having been here. If you can fuel your ambitions with a deeper sense of meaning and purpose, then you make it bulletproof. No amount of failure will deter you. No setback will stop you. Laziness will seem unimaginable. In the end, Edison and his team tried thousands of different filaments. Instead of despairing when a filament went out, Edison treated each result as just another piece of data. It told him one more thing that wouldn't work, narrowing down the options for what might work next time. "I have not failed," he said. "I've just found 10,000 ways that don't work." These words could apply to almost any great accomplishment in life. Finally, one evening, after countless trials, a new carbonized thread filament was installed. The team held their breath as Edison turned on the current, and the filament glowed, first for a few seconds, then minutes. 5 minutes passed, then 10. When Edison wanted to change the world, he only created failures. But when he sought out useful failures, he would eventually change the world. Change your starting point. Don't just dream of the glorious point you want to end up in your life. Dream of the series of 1,000 small failures along the way. Find the failures you're okay having, the failures that you actually kind of want to have. Because once you find those, you actually end up unstoppable.